Welcome to the BullCast podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me is Cameron Spann.
Hello. How are you guys?
And Cort Winsett.
Hi, Katie.
You know what we just celebrated on Sunday?
You tell me.
It was our birthday.
Our birthday?
Yeah, things have been so busy lately, I almost forgot that BullCast, the podcast, turned 3.
3 years we've been doing this.
We are in our toddler years now.
In the world of bovine, I guess a 3-year-old is that like a full-grown bull, cow?
I wish that I was knowledgeable on the growth rate of the average bovine.
I went to Mississippi State. I feel like I should know this.
You should really know this.
But no, I have no idea. But I mean, sure, I would think that they'd be close to full grown.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
But we have a little 3-year-old.
Little bitty 3-year-old. It's crazy to think that we're still going with this. We still are having fun. We've developed a lot of different good things, bad things. You've had growing pains. I kind of was laughing because it's like, okay, let's recap our listeners what we've been doing the past 3 years, because a lot of people have just come on board in the past, 6 months or year and may not know, we reference, hey, we've done all these other episodes, but they may not know exactly what we've done. I did look up the 3rd anniversary because it's kind of like, okay, it's our 3rd birthday, but it's also kind of like our 3rd anniversary of doing this. And so obviously this is for wedding, but we're kind of like a little marriage here of our podcast. So what this is that the 3rd anniversary is typically leather, which is rich and rugged, durable and protective. They can really be strong and overcome whatever is thrown its way. And so I kind of thought that was us.
Yeah, our show has a nice patina to it. You know what I mean? It's got a nice look.
Well, we've all gotten much busier. We're all in such different positions, of what we're doing. And even physically, our locations are totally different from when we started this in the prime of COVID. And, we're all busy doing other things, but then we try and make sure that every Thursday we get an episode to you. And we've done it successfully. Every single Thursday we have given you an episode, which is hard.
I remember back when we first started, and we would spend hours just coming up with what our quote unquote script was going to be for the podcast. So we pretty much had mapped out everything we were going to say. And then we would have multiple takes doing an episode, recording something before we actually came up with what the final recording was going to be. And then it would take Cameron hours and hours to edit it all and so forth. And then the episode would get out, and we would have to try and make sure that we had it done and recorded and submitted to compliance with at least 2 weeks advance of when the episode actually had to come out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not going to say that we don't put as much love and effort into the episodes now as we used to, but we have gotten better at it. So it doesn't take us as long to map out, plan out, and decide what we're going to talk about. We usually do the episodes in one take. Cameron does still actually have to edit out quite a bit of me saying and or stuttering, but
we're all guilty.
But then it just seems like we're just we've got to get an episode. It's like 2 days before the episode's due out. And, compliance is always really good about listening to those episodes as soon as you get them into them. So that we can still get it out in time. But we have a lot more close calls where Thursday is running up fast on us, and we're like, oh, we haven't recorded yet.
I'll never forget the butterflies of pressing record on our first episode because, we had an outline, but we didn't quite know where it was going. It's like, Katie, I think you're going to start. And
that's where we were forever. The hello.
Hello, the
and
birth
it is
of the hello.
Stuck, and I can't get rid of it.
Nope.
Well, and I do want to stress when I said it's hard, it's worth it because honestly, I feel like I've grown in how I can talk about finances, how it's much more natural talking with clients, talking with prospects, talking just in the community. Because of this, we're able to really, discuss anything and everything. And I think that's what's been so different is when we first started out, we were super, super heavy on here are the facts. Here is the history. I did the whole Katie's history lesson, and every episode was super, super informative. But listening back to some of those, it's like, wow, that was like a class you were taking. And while, yes, we want you to learn something from each of our episodes, we don't want you to be so beat down that you almost have to break up our 45-minute episode into multiple sessions because it's too much. And so I kind of wish we could have made those episodes earlier on a little bit less I mean, they were really robust. And I think even David told us that. It's like, we're trying to take too much on in one episode and we need to do more bite size, which we did.
Well, one of the points of starting this podcast was almost like the audience could walk with you and Cort through training for the CFP. Y'all were taking these classes and absorbing so much information. You were trying to get that out there. Now you guys have grown 3 years later and you're more chill about it. But I've really enjoyed this process because I'm not like a super talkative guy, and being in this quiet room with you guys, it's just like hanging out with my friends, and it's an opportunity for me to share what's on my mind and hang out with you guys.
Well, and I think it's cool because we bring such different perspectives into this. We're all in different life cycles, male and female perspective, different ages, different, kids, no kids, all of that we're able to like, hopefully when listeners are listening to us, they can relate to one of us, or they know somebody that they can relate one of us to that person. And so hopefully that helps, that it's not just we're all the same voice, and we do disagree with each other, and we do, challenge, and, there hadn't been lately, but, there's some episodes that y'all ganged up on me and really just like picked on me. Hardcore.
Got to keep it exciting. That is interesting. You mentioned how we're kind of in different stages of life, which gives listeners something interesting. But two of us share different facts. Like you and Cort are financial planning. Cort and I both have kids. We're both male. You and me are the same age. So we kind of each share something, but
yeah,
we have something different to talk about because of our stages of life.
Yeah.
Should we do a weekly volatility to kick things off?
Sure.
You want my up or down first?
Let's get your down first.
My down. It kind of has an up at the beginning. So I got a new truck recently. I had an accident back in November. I have a new truck. I love it. But this week is my first car payment. So that would be my down. I'm not looking forward to that. But I've loved that truck. So it all balances.
It is a very nice truck.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm quite jealous.
I like hauling things around. It's kind of nice. My up for the week is last week I celebrated my 10th anniversary at Pickler Wealth Advisors.
Woo!
Man, it's flown by.
And how did you celebrate?
We went to Folks Folly, the entire team. There were 17 or 18 of us there, and it was really special to me. I actually had a lot of fun hanging out with every single person.
I wasn't going to cry, but I cried. It happened. That sparks me. We need to do an episode about the longevity of people at jobs, because you don't hear about 10 years in our age group really anymore. People kind of jump around a good bit, and I don't think it's not necessarily because they don't like the place they're working. It's just different things bring it up. Let's put a pin in that. Let's talk about that on an episode.
Yeah, we've briefly hit on Gen Z in one episode, how they job hop occasionally, what fits their vibe and all that. But yeah, that'd be fun. All right, that's me. Katie?
Okay, my down would probably be that the knee injury that I think I've mentioned several times on the podcast that I did back in December when I decided to run up an escalator is finally coming to the point where I'm going to have knee surgery. So some future episodes might be real fun with me drugged up on painkillers, or me, like propped up in here with my leg up on the table trying to record.
We're going to have an episode just called Drugs. Drugs. For our listeners, Katie's knee is taped up. I'm looking at it. It's all taped up.
And it's funny because it's got this, the rock tape, the KT tape, which I think it does help. I don't really know if it's a mental thing or not, but so many people, because obviously it's summer, I'm wearing dresses, and people will just like see a glimpse of this big, thick black tape all over my knee, and they think it's a tattoo. And I'm like, no, why would I get a big old thick black block on my knee of all places? But that'd be my down. Up, I just finished Italian Fest. And that's another one I want to do an episode about, is kind of people being involved in festivals or things, like especially around Memphis. Like if you're a part of Memphis in May or Italian Fest, or like whatever the festival is that you're a part of, kind of the work that goes into that. But it's a great event. I had a lot of fun. I, first came on and was just kind of like the girlfriend of a team member, and really knew like, I want to be a part of this. I want to do this. And now I've gotten to be a huge part of the team and absolutely love it. So that's my up.
Awesome. There is not a specific point that I want to point to, either for my up or my down. This past week, I have had one massive down, like week-long massive down. and basically a week long up as well. Cameron just pointed to his shoulder when I said a week long down, because I've been complaining about my shoulder for longer than a week now. And I have not yet been told that I have to have surgery on it, but it wouldn't surprise me because it's driving me absolutely batty. But no, last
We're
week
falling
was
apart on you, Cam.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Last week was from starting Monday night through to basically this Monday morning now. I've just been riddled with health issues, bad neck, bad back, bad shoulder. I had my first allergic reaction in like 2 years to something. I don't know what, but I woke up Tuesday morning and had to go to the emergency room because I was broken out in hives. So I've been taking lots of steroids and antihistamines and stuff like that. So I've been completely loopy at work. My mind has been in a fog for the last week. And it's really been kind of a downer.
So this is 40. That's kind of your down. It's just... This is almost 50.
Yeah. And then my up was last weekend. For instance, I know that my allergic reaction was Tuesday morning because Monday night, my son was in town. He had come in for a visit. So we had gone to see a movie while he was in town. And then we went out to eat with my parents Monday night. And it must have been something at the restaurant that I reacted to. That's all I can figure. There must have been something in my dish that I didn't realize I was consuming that I was allergic to. But so my son was in town, and that was great. And then he had to leave. But then my daughter came home this weekend. And so, my really crappy week was kind of bookended by, at least I got to see my kids because they just don't come home that often anymore. And it's nice when they do.
That's kind of ideal. Your kids are taking shifts. When one leaves, another one comes in.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, William will be back sometime later this month to see his sister who is now in town. But then also his sister leaves while he's here, but then his other sister is coming home while he's still here so that they can see each other. I mean, like the amount of traveling they do
have a rotation of
just
kids.
To check in is amazing. Anyway,
that was our weekly volatility.
Good times.
Okay, so trying to not make this, here we go, another birthday episode where we just kind of talk about some of the same crazy episodes we've done. This really, as I said at the beginning, is walking through memory lane on some of these episodes, but also for our new listeners, we're going to kind of specifically mention some different episodes, give you that episode number. So if there's something that piques your interest, you can go back to that and listen. And you will notice, the sound quality is going to be different from where we were recording in the library, where we're recording now. And you'll kind of see the difference of like how we're comfortable and not, because I know we're very kind of awkward at the beginning and we don't have our groove that we can say different things to each other and cut each other off. And
very rigid at the beginning.
Yeah.
Now we're loosey-goosey.
Cam, I think you said you had one you really wanted to highlight first.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think one of the purposes of this episode is to catch up new listeners. This is what we're all about. This is some stuff we've covered. And one I wanted to highlight is a recent one. So maybe some of our newer listeners have actually heard it. But it was episode 154, Accidental Activist with Erin Gruwell. That was our latest guest episode. And the reason I'm highlighting it is because it wasn't specifically finance. It's not like stocks or bonds or anything. We simply had a wonderful guest in here, and she shared her heart with us, her heart for teaching and compassion and activism. And it was a lovely, lovely conversation. It was funny, it was heartwarming, and I think the three of us really enjoyed our hour and a half with her. So I highly suggest you guys listen to episode 154, and I would love to have more guests on in the near future.
Yeah, I was going to say, we still have not had a ton of guests. We've had a wide variety. We had Priscilla, who owns the Collierville Nutrition Shop. And then we've had Ryan Mitchell, home building, Ethan Johnson, home building.
Early on, we had Cort's brother.
Actually, I was going to bring up that episode as mine.
Well, forget I just said that.
Well, then go ahead and talk about it.
This is actually a way earlier episode, but one of my favorites still that I very distinctly remember recording was episode 37, Financial Crimes. My brother, who up until very recently was the head of the White Collar Crimes Division at the District Attorney General's office here in Shelby County. He is no longer there, but he was at the time, and he was in charge of their white collar crimes. In other words, a lot of financial crimes. And so he came in and did an episode with us. And I had talked about Byron and told people about my brother, but me just saying like, we have a lot of the same mannerisms. We have a lot of the same speaking style. You know, we look alike.
Y'all look the same.
Yeah.
There's, you know, I can say that a number of times and people are like, okay, yeah, whatever. But then when he came in, it was like, yeah, see? So I think it was a good episode. I feel like I remember thinking, hey, we've actually found a flow for this. And Byron seemed to fit right in. And, you know, everything just seemed to gel pretty well for that particular episode. And so it's been one that I have remembered fondly.
I just got to give a shout out to Cam for these titles on a lot of these episodes, because some of them are a little bit more boring maybe, but you really put some spice to it. One of the ones that I remembered was episode 44, The Head versus the Heart. And this is where we really kind of dive into behavioral finance. Now, of course, I've had a lot of behavioral finance courses since we did this episode, so I'd love to do another one. But this was one where I really kind of like lay it all out to you guys about how I'm a rational spender. And there's a lot of people that do not understand their identity and behavior with money. And so that's kind of a fun one, but I think that's the one that starts out with my day and kind of run late.
Yeah, that's right.
That was kind of a fun one.
Another one I'd like to hit on is episode 84, A Financial Focus on Forming a Family. And I like this one because it ties into what you said in the intro, how we're all in a different stage of life. Mm-hmm. So this was a conversation we had. Cort's got grown kids. I've got young kids. Katie doesn't have kids. And we had that important conversation about how expensive is it to have kids. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I had COVID and I called into the show and my kids were chatting and laughing in the background, which just fit the theme perfectly. But I do think that's an important topic. So that was episode 84. A financial focus on forming a family. All the F's.
Well, and it's like we used to really kind of keep it where it was a path going. You know, we had episode 60, the wedding episode 61, merging finances, and then episode 63, the prenup powwow, which probably, if I had to go back, I'd say we need to do that prenup before we get the marriage in there. Because, you know, first comes love, then comes prenup, then comes marriage, right?
Sure. I was never taught that growing up.
Well, you were taught wrong.
Mama's wrong again.
I think some of these are really topics that, and I try not to be annoying, but when I'm talking to some people, I'm like, oh yeah, we did an episode about that. I don't do it as much with our clients. I definitely, as I'm finishing up my master's, I have definitely referenced in some of our discussion boards, like, oh, I have a podcast episode about that. Check it out here. But I'm looking at From Side Hustles to Bonafide Business, episode 68. So many people. And I used to say it was just the younger generation. It's not anymore. It's all generations are all about passive income. Oh, are you about to talk about passive income?
Yeah.
Oh, look, we're
stealing everything that Cort has.
Jiving. Like, but the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, we did not plan this. I did not know I was segueing him straight into passive income. So,
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Episode 90, passive income, where we really talked about how real is passive income actually. And I cannot believe, honestly, I feel like we just recorded that episode, you know, in the last few months, but it's been over a year since we recorded that.
Holy moly.
Episode 90, it was released on 2/24/2022. So it's been a year and some months. It feels like it was yesterday. But we get into the whole passive income thing, and a lot of people coming to us and saying like, you know, I want to get that passive income going, where basically they're just picturing like, I'm going to kick it in a chair and, you know, sip on a Mai Tai and just let that passive income roll in.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, it sounds nice, but it's too good to be true. Like, you need to dive deeper into that.
I'm not necessarily recommending this episode, but I was flipping through all of our titles, and episode 114, Going Greek, I almost had a stroke. I was like, we had an episode about like Greece. And I was like, oh, it's fraternity, sorority life. But that also shows that this is a fun show because it's not strictly finance. We talk about just about everything from Labor Day to fraternities and sororities to everything under the sun. We usually tie in near the end some financial aspect of it, but we talk about everything.
Well, that's because everything boils back down to finances. Whether you have money or you don't have money, everything is related to financial aspects in some capacity. And so that's where I think we've changed is before we felt so much like, you know, our early episodes, like what is a stock? What is a bond? And like we did like the James Bond
What
thing.
is a credit card? How do you buy a house?
And, you know, good debt versus bad debt, episode 13. We were tackling such broad topics, and now we've realized, you know what? No, we need those bite-sized ones. Like I said before, like you want to be able to listen and be like, you know what? Yeah, episode 72, BullCast and Let It, gas prices. Now, again, that's another one. Like I talk about gas prices all the time right now, but that was episode 72. too. We need another one. Like, I make the joke, you got to take out a loan to buy gas right now. I mean, it's getting a little better, but still, like, this is all topics that one of us has either like had a personal experience with recently, or we've had a client come in, and that's kind of what sparked these episodes.
It's amazing we kept listeners after episode 4 and 5. That was back-to-back episodes on budgeting, something no one likes. But I think we touched on some really important stuff. But man, early on, we hit on budgeting hard.
Well, we started with the basics. I was actually describing our podcast to someone the other day, and I said it came up specifically because we were talking about another podcast that also does finances, but their approach to finances was to basically look into billionaires and how did billionaires get that way. They would have somebody like Warren Buffett on and interview him. And I, in turn, was describing our podcast. And I said, well, we're not really a billionaires podcast. We're
the skipper
beginners investors podcast, And he was like,
I'm glad if you got that reference. As a little chuckle.
Yeah, he said, well, yeah, but anybody can become a billionaire. So you could, somebody that starts off with you could end up becoming a billionaire. And I was like, well, yeah, sure. Okay. Yes. 100%.
I mean, and we're not trying to lump all our listeners into one category, but I think a lot of people get turned off at the fact of like, well, yeah, one day you could be a billionaire or millionaire. It's like, no, you want to listen to people that can talk about like why diapers are so expensive and why daycare is insane, and you almost get like a pay raise after they stop going to daycare. Or, episode 108, making lemonade from lemons, talking about taking bad situations and trying to, reevaluate that. Because I'm sorry, life happens. We're not all Warren Buffett. We're not all these people that if they make a, financial mishap, oh, okay, there's, tons of different options out there. Like, it's going to impact them, whether they have their emergency fund or not. They're going to feel that. And I'm not saying that these billionaires and all of that don't. It's just we want to be a podcast for the people. I cringe as I said that. But it's, like episode 109, tips for tipping. I think that's when we talk about the Sonic girls and tipping them.
Yeah.
And
Beep, beep.
Yeah, we have had some conversations that have touched on topics that have come up frequently for me, over the years. And I always wonder about how much to tip people, whether or not I should tip people, whether or not, and the fact that we were able to sit down and have that conversation about that. And, I still think about when we were recording that episode and Cameron said, nope, there are only certain people that I will tip.
Yep.
And the rest of them, I just stare them down. I'm like, no, I'm not tipping you.
Flip that iPad
back, buddy.
You put a bagel in a bag for me. Congratulations.
Yeah, but it's everywhere now with those iPads. Like,
oh yeah,
I've got 2 back-to-back episodes I'd like to recommend to our newer listeners.
Okay.
First is episode 95, Sharpening the Saw, Aloha Style.
Oh yeah.
I'll break this down. The first part, Sharpening the Saw, I think that was an important topic that we covered. It's all about continued education and not to just be fat and sassy and sit back and do your job, but continue to learn. You know what I mean? Take classes or get involved somewhere, join a board. But also the Aloha Style part. We were just in Maui for a work trip, and we went to a big luau and we recorded a little section of it on the iPhone, and we put that in the episode, and man, that was a blast. And the follow-up episode 96, The Power of Branding. When we were in Maui, we had each given presentations, and mine was on the power of branding. And so we got back and we did an episode on that presentation, and I had a blast. I talked about what I love, which is branding, and how small businesses can utilize that to make more money.
Yeah. I liked episode 70, investing in furniture, and episode 69, investing in clothes, because that is kind of one of the first investments people talk about. And I'll mention it in client meetings of like, hey, if you've got the option to finance a mattress or, TV or tables or something like that, because especially kids, like once you get out of college and you're going on your own, it's expensive to buy furniture. If you buy a new house, then it's like, okay, when do you get rid of your hand-me-down furniture? So again, we try and relate to kind of what's going on in our lives. And I think the clothing conversation was a conversation I had with my husband, and because I kept buying more clothes. And I'm like, well, but I'm seeing clients. I can't wear the same thing every day. Got to change it up.
Back in episode 43, we talked about, the title was Subscription Conniption.
Oh, yeah.
And I was curious if the world would change, but no, we are still on a subscription-based everything. Netflix, Hulu, food, delivery, everything is subscription. So
let's talk about Netflix for a second. going and making everybody basically pay for their own Netflix.
Yeah,
Can't share passwords anymore. That's
I don't know how
terrible.
they're going to regulate that. I've had a hot debate about this because what if I own a Netflix account and it's that I have a home, like we have a lake house in Hot Springs, or if, I go to my in-laws beach condo and I sign in there, all this stuff like that, like that's me. How are you going to regulate that?
There's a pop-up. They've got it covered. There's a pop-up that will come up and it'll say, this is not your network. You're
not at home.
You're not at home. Is this a different person or are you on vacation? And if you're like, no, I'm traveling, it's me, then you click that button and they go through the process of letting you on.
But so, yeah, that's the thing is that's fine. But then are they going to try and come back? So like, for instance, what if I'm on vacation and I'm trying to watch Netflix and Daniel's at home and he's trying to watch Netflix? Because I'm about to argue with him if they try and say that. Granted, there is one of our listeners that does borrow my Netflix from time to time. So I have warned that person that they may be on the chopping block.
It's funny because 2 years ago, Netflix tweeted on their official account, "Love is sharing your Netflix password."
Oh.
They changed their mind on that one, didn't they?
Wow. Episode 94. I remember when I pitched this name and y'all thought I was crazy. The 3628. Because I was trying to do like a Sir Mix-a-Lot, it was funny. That was all about, like the debt to income ratio. But again, it's kind of a boring topic, but we tried to throw a spicy little meatball out there, a spicy little title to kind of get your attention because that is important, talking about debt to income, and nobody talks about that.
I'm going to get a little bit salty here because I mean, we have talked about this one before and brought it up before. And so our longtime listeners will roll their eyes probably, but those of you that haven't heard the story yet, you're about to hear it again. Episode number 11. Episode 11, there was more blood, sweat, and tears that went into that one episode than any other episode we've ever done. I mean, we re-recorded the vacations episode so many times that it became laughable how many times we recorded it.
And then
still when we finally released it,
it
just tanked. It absolutely tanked. There no listeners.
Because the fifth time we recorded it, we didn't. We were done. We were done.
You know what? That sparked. What if we do an episode about like timeshares and like DVC and like some of those different things?
Well, I mean, I can do an episode for you right now about timeshares.
No.
Timeshares are bad. Okay, don't do it.
We got to save this stuff. Like you can't give it all away now.
Oh,
Cort.
yeah. I'm sorry. I was just jumping on the train. Y'all kept stealing my topics, so I just figured I would,
You can't go ahead and give them episodes. I think all three of us really need to go back and sleep listening to episode 130, work-life balance, and that's because I think we have no work-life balance at times.
What is work-life balance?
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but and by you guys I mean the listeners, but I know where I was over the weekend, and it was not just relaxing in my I was up at the office 2 days over the weekend. So, okay. Well, we didn't really do a traditional list for this episode. We just sort of kicked it off and went right into our highs and lows and then a list of episodes that you might want to give a try. But we do have a list of people that share a birthday with BullCast, the podcast. And I thought it'd be fun to go down that list because it's a wildly good birthday, really.
Yeah.
There are several names on here that I'm like, oh, wow. So Hugh Laurie, who was, of course, Dr. Gregory House on House MD, he shares a birthday with the BullCast.
The Dinkmeister, Peter Dinklage.
Yes,
from
sir.
Game of Thrones fame.
Yes, sir.
Yep, Joshua Jackson.
Yep. Shia LaBeouf. I just like saying his name.
Vince Lombardi. Who is he? Just kidding.
Gene Wilder. I love this guy.
Yeah, sadly, of course, he passed away back in like 2016, I think. So, but he was definitely great. And then the last one on the list is one of my favorites, Joe Montana. I mean, I'm not going to get into the GOAT debate with anybody, but he is my favorite quarterback of all of the famous, really good quarterbacks. I like him the most.
I can't see a fur coat without thinking of Joe Montana.
Yeah. I do want to throw one more episode. There was a lot of fun. Episode 123. That was the Bull and Bones exposing secret societies.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, Cam actually created our own like little crest, I guess, or kind of symbol for our little secret society.
Maybe Nicole made that.
Or maybe Nicole did?
I think Nicole made that, yeah.
Okay, but it was really cool, like Bull and Bones. And that was just a fun one talking about the secret societies. And again, to your point about Greek life, it's, okay, how does this relate to finances? But I mean, all those secret societies are backing different organizations and really can make power moves to change the world.
You got to be rich to be in one.
Yeah. So, I mean, this episode really isn't new content, but it's kind of more so a overview of some of the wide variety of episodes we have out there. We have, not counting this one, 157 episodes out there from all different broad topics. You don't have to necessarily listen in a certain order. We've said that before. So you can really kind of look through the topic list and see. I did look today, our website, you can actually search a podcast. And so if there's something you're interested in, kind of check that out.
Like credit card, search credit card, it'll pull everything up.
Yeah, like we did a 2-for episode on houses and cars. And again, we rattle this off at the very end, but I want to say this now in the meat of the episode. We are always looking for podcast guests, and you don't have to physically come into our office in Collierville. We can do it over the phone, but we want to keep giving you guys, the listeners, what you want to hear. And even if it's just some random topic about something that may not necessarily directly be financial, then throw it our way, and we'll see about putting it on there.
You want to hear about squirrels? We'll have a guest on to talk about squirrels. It doesn't matter.
That's funny because Daniel's background on his phone is stuffed squirrels that we saw in Jackson Hole. They were selling for $700, and it's these 2 stuffed squirrels in a canoe. So it's funny you said squirrels.
The value of a squirrel, $700. I love it. This journey has been really fun because you two were on your own journey for CFP, learning about financial planning, and I was in the back seat. But I've learned so much through this, every single topic. I didn't know how a HELOC worked before we discussed it. I didn't know a lot of things, and you guys have taught me, so I appreciate it.
But it's been fun because it does break up our day-to-day because we enjoy meeting with our clients. We enjoy doing what we do, but we also really enjoy having this time to kind of verse ourselves on talking about some of these different topics and really humanizing it, because I'll tell y'all, it's complicated. It really is. And there's new things that we're learning every single day. So we hope that you enjoy it and it's slightly entertaining. We don't sing as much as we used to.
No, people are probably thankful for that. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, there's the closing bell. You've made it to the end of yet another episode of the BullCast podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, we just told you where to go to listen to all of the episodes. You can go to our website, that is bullcastpodcast.com, to find out more about me, Katie, and Cameron. Also, if you like pictures, boy, do we have pictures. You can go to Instagram. Our Instagram handle is @BullCastPodcast, and we also have a Twitter handle, @BullCast Podcast, and we have a Facebook page, BullCast the Podcast. We may have mentioned that we work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors. If you'd like to find out more about what we do at Pickler Wealth Advisors, find out about our team and our boss, David Pickler, then feel free to go to that website. That is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've given you everything you need to go forth, be merry, and listen to our episodes. So have at it. For now, I'm Cort.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we're done.